Welcome everyone. It's so exciting to see all these names, that we've been talking to some of you already. So it's just great that we're all on the same page right now, literally the same web page. There's a first for everything in life, and it's the first time we're doing a virtual open house. So this has its own level of excitement. So we just can't wait to meet you all in person. Erica, Andrew, and I, of course, have been, so excited to welcome you in person, and we will in September. But now we just wanted to take a moment and just say your name and where you're calling from, because we want all of you to hear each other as well, because these are the people you're going to be studying with. This is your cohort. So why don't we start here with Michelle Kolb.
Hi there. Hello? Can you?
Yeah.
Hi there. How are you?
Hi, Michelle. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Princeton, New Jersey.
Yay!
Yeah, the green outdoors. I can't figure out why is the video supposed to be working?
It's okay. It doesn't matter. Just very quickly to say hello and to see where you're calling from. So you don't need to put it on the video.
Okay, great.
It might take too long to go through that.
Sure.
Valerie Smith, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Los Angeles, California.
Yay! How are you social distancing?
We're getting an A for our social distancing right now. It wasn't the case at first, but we're doing good. Everybody's doing good now.
Super. That's great. Welcome. Samuel Wiley, where are you calling from?
Morning. I'm calling from San Simeon, California.
Excellent. By coastal over here.
Yes.
Luxie, where are you calling from?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm calling from Shanghai.
Yay! Are you guys still social distancing over there, or are you past?
No, we're back to like the normal life.
Oh, good. So there's light at the end of the tunnel for us too then. That's great. Thank you. Yifan Shen, where are you calling from?
Hi, nice to meet you guys. I'm also calling from Shanghai. I just came back from the bar, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Hope you guys could do so soon.
Well, you got to meet Luxie then. You guys have to meet each other because you're both in Shanghai.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay. Chris Kumarjaja, where are you calling from?
Hello. I am from bright and wonderful Westchester County, 5 miles from Lyndhurst.
Excellent. I'll send you a smoke signal.
Yes, I'll be sure to see it.
Great. Yifei Yang, where are you calling from? Yifei, where are you calling from? Can you hear us?
Yifei is chatting to us that she is from Beijing, or they are from Beijing, excuse me, and they do not have a microphone.
Ah, okay, perfect. Okay, Rafa, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Austin, Texas.
Texas.
Yes.
Fantastic. Kevin is obviously the director of admission, so he's on the call. Areti Kotsoni, where are you calling from, Areti?
Hi, can you hear me?
Of course, yes, loud and clear.
I am calling from Crete, Greece.
Oh, we're so jealous.
Don't be, we're in total lockdown these days, so yeah.
Okay, well then we all share the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Gabi Perlman, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Long Island. So, pretty close to you guys. It's been pretty boring out here.
Excellent. Excellent. Welcome. Lindsay, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from South Pasadena, California.
Oh, fabulous. California. Ziming Wang, where are you calling from?
Hi, also from Shanghai, China. Nice to meet you, everyone.
Nice to meet you too. That's great. So the Shanghai group definitely has to organize a drink for themselves and send us a picture, okay?
Not yet.
You're not out of the house yet? Well, when you get out of the house, you have to all meet and send us a picture. So
great.
Yeah, I'm kind of more brave than people, so.
Okay, well then maybe you guys can just have a chat on, on Zoom. Emily F. Emily, where are you calling
Hello,
from?
everyone. I'm calling from very cloudy Chicago.
Chicago. I like to say Chicago's my hometown because that's where I came as a foreign exchange student. That's where I first went, was Chicago. So the Windy City.
That it is.
My heart is there. My heart is there. I'm a Midwesterner at heart. Christine Holtz, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Fremont, Ohio.
Yay!
Yeah, Ohio. Also
nice.
very cloudy here.
Very nice. Okay, so let's see. Adam Brodheim, where are you calling from? Adam. Oh, we can't hear Adam.
Sorry, I'm calling from Fort Greene, Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That's Andrew's. That's Andrew's route.
Brooklyn.
Sharon, where are you?
Fort Greene,
Adam,
he said.
Adam, we couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
Fort Greene.
Fort Greene. Fabulous. Sharon, where are you calling from? Sharon Welsh.
I'm calling from Austin, Texas, but I'm from Wisconsin, so.
Fantastic. Are you keeping it weird in Austin?
Oh, I'm just stuck in the house, so if reading and drawing counts as keeping it weird, then yeah.
Okay, great. Pablo Edwards, where are you calling from?
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm calling from Santiago, Chile.
Oh, fabulous. One of my favorite places in the world. Welcome. Are you social distancing in Chile, Pablo? Or are you stuck in the house as well? Or are you still able to go out?
We are social distancing.
But you're going outside?
More or less. I'm at the countryside but now, so it's easier.
That's great. Okay. Tirat, Pimi.
Everyone, I'm calling from Bangkok, Thailand.
Yay, Bangkok.
Yay.
That's great. How are you dealing with the pandemic in Bangkok?
We're okay. It's just like working from home, mainly in Bangkok only.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other places just like living their normal life.
Fabulous. Okay.
Okay.
Good to hear. Jesse Kling, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Fantastic. Minneapolis. That's and how is the weather over there? Do you still have snow on the ground?
It's melted now. There's been a few very nice days. It's sunny and in the 50s, so very warm for the north right now.
That's great. And social distancing or no distancing?
Definitely social distancing. We're on de facto lockdown.
Okay, great. Well, we're all doing our duty. Yidong Yao, where are you calling from?
Hi there, I'm calling from Guangzhou, China.
Yay!
It's very warm here. Yeah.
What's the temperature in Guangzhou?
It's around 28 degrees Celsius.
Oh boy, wow. That's warm.
Yeah.
Great. Well, welcome. Kathy Han, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from St. Louis, Missouri.
Very nice, St. Louis. You been to the Arch?
Yeah, a couple years before.
Great. One of my favorites. Josue, where are you calling from?
Hello, everyone. I'm calling from Mexico City.
Oh, we're so jealous.
Well,
Are
we
you
have to be confined too, so.
Are you confined as well?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's not enforced, but we've been asked to do it, so.
Well, but you still eat good food though, right?
Of course we do.
That's great. Ying Wang, where are you calling from? Ying, where are you calling from? Hello, Ying. Okay, we don't
sorry,
have.
sorry. I mute myself. Sorry, I'm calling from China, Shanxi province.
Okay, what city?
Uh,
Oh, say that again. We couldn't hear it. Oh, looks like we have a bad connection. So why don't you type it into the chat? Jianing Wei, where are you calling from?
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm coming from Jinan, China. It's located at the north of China.
Beautiful, Xian. Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. Here we all are. We are all social distancing. So for the first time, in a way, we all have a very similar experience. This is such an experiment. And at Columbia, we are very experimental. So this is already the beginning of a new way of thinking about our collective work, is to be on this platform. It's so great to have you all here. As you can see, people are calling from all over the world. Ours is really the most international program. We train the world in preservation. Our alumni are from all over the world, but we're also really deeply rooted in our New York culture, New York as our laboratory. And so we want to tell you a little bit more about the program. You know that there is a web page where we have all of the information that is there for you to listen to and at your own leisure, that talks about the curriculum. Our preservation alumni, which are a very important part of the transition from the school to the profession, have also done a presentation for you. I encourage you to look at that. There's a presentation on the lab in the page, which I encourage you to look at. So take a look at all that. We wanted to just talk to you a little bit more about ourselves, about the faculty. I always say that our faculty is our greatest treasure. We are very fortunate to have some of the greatest faculty in the world, and all of them with incredible careers, having made contributions to the profession, to the discipline, to scholarship. And so this is really, you know, many of you have asked me about what makes Columbia different. Well, it's not just our curriculum. It's not just the fact that we're a great accelerator into the profession, not just the fact that we are in New York, and New York is the greatest marketplace for jobs in historic preservation, but one of our big points of differentiation is our faculty. These are the people that you are going to be studying with. So I just want to take a little moment and share my screen and give a chance to some of our full-time faculty to talk a little bit about what they do, and then I will also give a little bit of background on some of the other faculty. So let me see if this works. Can everyone see the screen here, my screen that says Columbia GSAPP?
Yes, we've got it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, let me turn the microphone over then to Andrew Dolkart.
Hi, I'm Andrew Dolkart, and I'm thrilled that you're all here. I am an architectural historian and preservationist. I am a graduate of the Historic Preservation Program. I started out my career, I was going to do the PhD route in architectural history, And after 1 year, I realized that that was not what I wanted. I wanted to do something that would have an impact on people and people's lives. And I heard about historic preservation in the Columbia program, and I transferred there, and I've never looked back. And I do three things really in my career. I teach, which I love, and I write, and you can see some of my books here. I'm really interested in the urban vernaculars, the everyday buildings that that are so common that we take them for granted, but they really create the fabric of our cities. And I'm interested as an architectural historian in American architecture, but my passion is the architecture and development of New York, which is what I write about, which you can see here. So I teach and I write. And then if you go to the next slide, I also believe that preservation is an activist field, and I'm very active in preservation projects in the New York area, in working with community groups, and with several colleagues who are also graduates of the Historic Preservation Program. We founded the NYC LGBT Historic Sites Project, which is a way of interpreting and reinterpreting sites from an LGBT lens. We have a website, and we've been reevaluating National Register nominations and doing a lot of activist work in that field. I also do National Register nominations. I give walking tours. I give public lectures. I believe that it's our duty to make people aware of the built environment, both from an architectural and social point of view. And in fact, about 20 minutes ago, an article was posted in the New York Times website of me touring the architecture critic of the New York Times around Museum Mile on Fifth Avenue as a way of people getting out to see the city, even when they're confined to their houses. So if you get the New York Times online, take a look at that little piece. And I look forward to answering your questions. I just need to say that I have to leave at 5 minutes to 12 because I have a class at 12 o'clock. So I'm handing it over to Erica.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, especially those of you who are, for whom it's very early in the morning and those for whom it's very late at night. We very much appreciate you making time in your schedules. I am also a graduate of Columbia's HP program, Historic Preservation Program. I actually am a two-time graduate of Columbia. I was an undergrad in Columbia College. And I studied architecture with a minor in political science, and then came back to do my master's in historic preservation. I then worked for a number of years. I worked for Jan Pokorny's office in New York City, which was a preservation firm, an architecture and preservation firm. I worked for the Getty Conservation Institute as well out in Los Angeles, and then continued to consult for them for a number of years, and then moved on to the Director of Research and Education at World Monuments Fund, which is based here in New York. And in that process, I also went back and did my PhD in planning and public policy, because all of my field experience and work with institutions and organizations dedicated to heritage really prompted me to be thinking more about how we think of governance structures, how we actually make change in the field in more systemic ways, how we address the bigger questions like sustainability, climate change, social justice, resilience, that go beyond a sort of project by project approach, and instead think about that infrastructure of institutions, organizations, regulation, incentives that underpin all of the work that supports historic preservation. And so I went back to do my PhD and then ended up in academia, where I continued to really push at that margin between, or that intersection rather, between theory as well and the kind of broader concepts of policy and practice, so that we're continuing a dialogue back and forth and changing practice in the field, changing how heritage is approached on the ground, while at the same time, rethinking, shaping the future of the field, and looking at innovative ways to really address everyone's heritage, multiple publics. And to that end, I have a series of publications. A few are up here. On the far right is work that I did in the field with World Monuments Fund at Hassan Fatih's New Gurna village in Egypt. I just published a book with the Getty Conservation Institute, Values and Heritage Management, that looks at how we as individuals and we as kind of group-based stakeholders ascribe values and interests to heritage, and how that actually shapes the way in which we choose to preserve places and buildings. Finally, I have a research project that I'm running through Columbia that deals with issues in preservation policy, focusing on questions of social inclusion and sustainability. We have one publication that's come out. This one that's illustrated is the one that is supposed to come out at the middle of this month. We'll see if that happens, because we can't ship out of the warehouse at the moment. But I try and engage students as much as possible in all of this work on the left, rather, so that we're really kind of helping students think about their profession, not only as working in an architecture firm or working for a preservation commission, for example, but seeing as well how we can engage with other areas of and other professions that really deal with the management of the built environment, whether that's planning, whether that's housing, whether that's community development, and thinking about the ways that preservation really can engage and use its full and robust toolbox toward a broad range of social and environmental ends.
Great, thank you, Erica. I came to preservation through my training in architecture. And I came to preservation also discovering the history of architecture. I was very fascinated by the history of architecture. And I think, like Andrew and Erica, I wanted to make that impact in the world. And I wanted to really use the theoretical knowledge that I had acquired, both in training as an architect and in training as a historian, in the world. I'm an artist, and in a way that artistic practice informs everything that I do as an architect and as a historian. So when Andrew said he wears 3 hats, I think all of us that come to preservation have multiple backgrounds that inform the way that we approach the field. So I write. I'm a writer. I'm a theorist. These are some of the books that I've worked on. Experimental preservation is a way of thinking about preservation as an experimental field in which we're testing new ways, testing the future of what the field can be aesthetically and also theoretically. So what is preservation going to look and feel, and how is that going to change the way that it can engage communities and really make people think about heritage in a different way. The other book about architecture's historical turn is really about the rise of postmodern architecture, where architects began to take seriously history after the moment where modernists had really broken off with history. There's this return to history, and that really interested me because it is that, in a sense, struggle with history that defines the engagement of a lot of architects with preservation. So my work as an artist is concerned with making the process of preservation visible. And I often deal with, here in this case, for example, this is an installation that I did at the British Houses of Parliament, where I spent 6 years collecting the dust of the Parliament walls, Westminster Hall. This is the entrance to Parliament, 1,000-year-old building. And I collected the dust. The dust was going to be thrown away, and I saved it and made this latex cast, which is 50 meters long, to exhibit it. It opened the day of Brexit, so the whole thing became associated with Brexit and the politics of it. But for me, it was a deeper connection to the longer history of this building and what in the process of preservation we tend to throw away. So in this case, it is pollution. And so making visible pollution is a way of also engaging with this question of climate change and the climate crisis, and how preservation can begin to open a dialogue about the kinds of things that we don't value or that we don't want to look at. So just as Andrew is looking, for example, at LGBT sites, things that have been excluded from the preservation field and bringing them into view critically, I am trying to bring in this notion of pollution as something that we haven't looked at critically, and opening it up and engaging it through art. For me, aesthetics is a very important part of it. How architects design buildings, how artists engage with preservation, for me is very important, because in the end, preservation is a way of engaging aesthetically with the public. So that aspect is very important to me. I practice both as an artist and as a preservation architect. So I collaborate with international teams. A lot of my work is international, so I'm abroad a lot. And I collaborate with major architectural design firms as their preservation architect to bring a kind of artistic and experimental point of view to the preservation of buildings. So in particular, for example, at the moment, I've been working on the team that is preserving the United States Embassy in Oslo that was designed by Eero Saarinen, somebody from St. Louis over here, the St. Louis Arch. I love Saarinen. And so in this building is really exciting because we're pushing a lot of really interesting new aesthetics of how do you preserve a building, and questioning the theories of stylistic restoration and pushing for a more layered approach that will engage the public. This building was closed to the public for many, many years, and this is the moment where the public is really entering the building. So what is the community? What are their interests? All of those things are very important for us. And how is this going to look? And there are a lot of technical problems here, mechanical and insulation. And so we're trying to make this building a sustainable retrofit. And so all of those, the questions that Erica is talking about is at the macro level, this is like where the rubber meets the road. We're trying to apply those and trying to think about them in our solutions. Because if you change the insulation on the building and change the thickness of that really purist, a modernist building, you change the whole feel of this building. So these are the kinds of questions that we try to engage with. So theory and practice come together in our work. And we are very fortunate to have an incredible faculty. The faculty is a very, it's at the top of the field in every level. We have a very large adjunct faculty. Here are some of the people that you will be meeting as your faculty. They are both engineers like Tim Michels, Mary Jablonski, and Norman Weiss, and Richard Piper. They are also architects like Françoise Bolak, or Michael Adlerstein, or Theo Proudhon, or Bryony Roberts, or Bill Gikose. They are planners like Carol Clark. They are conservators like Amanda Trienens and Claudia Kavanaugh. They are artists like Carlos Bayod and Adam Lowe, planners like Carolina Castellanos. Belmont Freeman is an architect, anthropologists like Laura Jane Smith, or cultural critics like Robert Hewison. They're from all over the world. We have faculty that is local. So many are faculty, for example, Claudia Kavanaugh, John Walsh, who's a conservator specialist on concrete. They work here, they're in New York. They lead some of the premier firms in architectural preservation, engineering preservation, historical preservation, meaning preservation firms that deal with the historical research and preservation. But our faculty is also international, and we're very pleased to be able to fly in people from around the world to lead master classes. So Robert Hewison, who is in London, comes in to teach classes on the culture industry and on John Ruskin. He was the person that essentially, one of the people that started the idea of cultural heritage studies. Laura Jane Smith, who was just here from Australia, who is the person that really created the Association for Critical Heritage Studies. Carlos Bayod and Adam Lowe from Spain. Bill Gakose, who was in Turkey and just moved to the United States. Carolina Castellanos comes in from Mexico. Eric Langdalen comes in from Norway. So we're very international faculty because all of you are also a very international cohort. And as I said, we train you not only to work in the United States, but to have that broader view to be able to enter into the preservation field as a broad field that is international. I encourage you to look more at our faculty webpage over here, Columbia. This is that link. You will find here more information about our faculty, like Theo Proudhon, who will be teaching you American modern building technology. He wrote the textbook on the preservation of modern architecture, has worked on a lot of modern buildings. He's also the president of Docomomo US. Tim Michels, who works at one of the premier preservation engineering firms in New York, Old Structures, who will be teaching you traditional building technology. Claudia Cavanaugh, who teaches in Studio One, who is part of the premier conservation firm, Building Conservation Associates in New York, who restored St. Patrick's Cathedral on Fifth Avenue. Norman Weiss, who worked on the Guggenheim and is the chief preservation scientist for international conservation resources. So this is, the faculty like Mary Jablonski, who heads Jablonski Conservation Inc., worked at the Smithsonian Cooper Hewitt. They are really at the top of the field. They're in the profession. They are experimental, each in their own way. Brani Roberts, who has her own studio, architecture and art, deals with interpretation. She engages communities in a different way. So she engages them in performances at historic sites that are interpretive performances. So here, for example, she worked with a drill group from the south side of Chicago to do a performance in Federal Plaza that would interpret the grid of the Mies van der Rohe design buildings. And you can see here they are standing in the grid like the columns of the building behind them. But she has also worked, for example, with super graphics and so on. So I'm in awe of our faculty. They're a tremendous group, and they are really they're redefining the field. And I think that that's one of the really important things to consider, is that at Columbia, what you're going to be doing is really imagining the future of preservation. I think in other programs, you will be, studying what preservation is today or has been in the last 10 years. You'll be ready to enter a field that is, you'll be in that sense kind of trained to enter a field as it is. Here, what we're trying to get you to do is be experimental, be creative, participate, think about the future, reimagine the future of the field. And that experimental aspect is really, really central. So we do have some questions that you guys have sent ahead. So I am going to start with those. And then we're going to encourage you to please raise your hand if you have another question. And we'll try to go, Lila's going to help us go one by one to try to answer your questions. So one of the first questions that came in was about COVID-19. And it said, I don't know who the questions came from because they were, the names were removed. So, but you'll know who you are. I've appreciated the dialogue Columbia has had with current students regarding COVID-19. As of now, do you anticipate the coronavirus to delay the fall term? And if so, what measures are the faculty taking to prepare for the potential delay? There was another question that was related to this as well, so I'm just going to read them together. And the question said, how will the COVID-19 affect the 2020 fall semester? So as of now, we are planning to start in fall semester as usual. I think, you know, we have a lot of scientists and people at Columbia looking into this. The expectation is that the social, you know, distancing and so on that is in place right now will hit the peak over, you know, the next few months, and by September everything will be back to normal. So we encourage you all to make plans in that regard. There will be maybe some delays you getting visas, because I think that visas are swamped. So we will be making accommodations for those of you that are internationals. If your visa doesn't come in time, we will maybe have Zoom sessions or have Zoom in the classroom so you can start following the classes before you get here if you're waiting for your visa or things like that. Okay, but we will be communicating with you about that as things evolve. There are some questions also concerning our program and the character of the program, which I find really, really interesting. One of the questions was, what is the class size of the historic preservation program? So you can expect a class size of about 12 people. You know, that's what we try to aim at. We like to have very intimate contact between the faculty and the students. So this allows us to do that, and it is a class size also that we're a very intimate program, so it helps. You know, you'll have so much personal contact with the faculty. As you could see, we have about over 20 faculty members. So if the feel is of a small liberal arts college where everyone's very available, our doors are always open, but we are within a very large research institution. So that's, I think, a real plus. Another question, how would you describe the social environment of the program cohort? I would say that the social environment is a very positive one. It's non-competitive. We work in teams, but maybe Erica, you could say a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I actually, I think that our current situation is really a test of cohesion and community resilience. And I'm right now teaching Studio 2, which has all of the first year students. We have a mid-review that'll be virtual online tomorrow. And I have been just really so thoroughly impressed, and at points just sort of, you know, brought almost to tears at how well the students have connected, because their mid-review is collaborative, completely collective. It's not, I'm going to present my project and you're going to present your project, but rather all of them, there are 11 in the class, are doing a joint presentation. And you know, the way in which they have been supporting each other, in contact with each other, on their WhatsApp group with each other, even in the face of our current crisis, to me is demonstrative of a really strong sense of cohesion and collaboration that we try to instill as faculty, but really is something that the students kind of embrace and take to new levels.
We have two questions about the curriculum, which I'll read off. One is asked, is the program more theoretical based or project based? And the other says, I hope to learn more about the differences between the concentrations of conservation, design, and planning. When should students choose a concentration? What is the relationship between courses of the different concentrations? So I'd say that the program is really theory and practice. That, you know, one of the things that we really push for is that these theory and practice cannot be thought of in isolation. You can have an idea, but unless it has bearing in practice and it can be tested in practice, and then that practical project come back to inform the theory, you know, the theory for itself or practice for itself, is really only half. You know, the whole point is how to connect it. Where we connect it is in studio, and as you saw in our program, the whole program is a way of connecting theory and practice. The SLAB curriculum, social, laboratory, archival, historical, and building, all these aspects have to fit together, and they're all theoretical and they're all practical at the same time. So we don't actually, I think this question about the concentrations maybe is, it's very important to clarify that, because we don't have concentrations. I think other programs do, but we did a very careful study of the employment of students after the program. And so we used to have concentrations about a decade ago. And when we did, what happened is students were very well trained on a very small part of the curriculum, and they would get a job immediately on that curriculum. And we were very happy, oh, everybody had a job coming out of school. But then when we look back on that, many of them had lost their jobs 5 years into the job, 3 years into the job, because what happens in a firm is that the firms need to do many things at the same time. And so maybe they have you working on something when you first start, but then that project stops and they need to reassign you to something else to move on to keep the office afloat. So if you can only do one thing, what ended up happening is people were getting fired. So we realize also that in the long term, in a career, people move in different directions. Erica did a thesis on wood conservation, right, Erica? And is now one of the world's premier policy, theorists and practitioners. So you really can move in your field in many different ways, and we want you to have that solid background, and that's why we moved to more of an integrated curriculum. So I think that's a real plus of our program, and that maybe you, Erica, if you want to say a little bit more about from a personal experience of why that's important.
Jorge is absolutely correct. I started out long ago in the preservation program doing a conservation concentration. So I actually looked at wood preservatives for my thesis. I don't ever regret having had that more technical training, but I believe that it was also at that, even throughout the program, even when we had concentrations, Columbia has had a broad base of required classes that allows you to see all aspects of the field. And I realized as I got further in my career, and you learn what you like and what you don't like, and where your strengths are in the profession, that I really was interested more in this policy level, beyond just planning. Really thinking about policy, and that's really something that Columbia is kind of trying to lead, because there's not really many programs thinking about policy at all, and it's an imperative kind of horizon for the field in the face of climate change and questions of equity. So thinking about these bigger issues is part and parcel of what you can do while you learn your technical skills, while you apply them. And to just give a quick example, the studio that I just mentioned is actually focusing on Red Hook, Brooklyn, which flooded terribly during Hurricane Sandy here in New York. And it also is suffering from a fair degree of gentrification at the moment. And so students are actually looking at how do you use the tools of preservation and apply them to questions of equity and resilience in the face of flooding, in the face of some of these social differences. So that it's not just preservation for preservation's sake, but preservation serving that broader set of aims.
I think that's very important. And in a way, Erica, you've answered another question here that says, how does Columbia's program engage with the community? What are some examples of the impact in the community? I think that's a great example of that. Those studios really engage very deeply with the community. There's a question here, Andrew, that I think you'll be able to answer on thesis. Do students normally have their thesis topics in mind before the semester starts, or does the curriculum help develop the topic through each semester of the thesis and through the thesis colloquium?
I think that it's very rare that any student knows what they want to do their thesis on when they arrive. It's not unheard of. There are students who arrive with an idea and then they develop it. But I think that one of the important things about coming here is that you're learning about all aspects of preservation, and you may end up being interested in working on a thesis that has nothing to do with anything you even imagined when you arrived. And I think it's really important that because of the varied curriculum, that people are open-minded and they think about new ideas and new things that they're interested in. We just had a presentation where we presented the idea of studio to the students just before the lockdown began. We will be asking students later in April for just a kind of tentative idea of what kinds of things they might be interested in. A lot of students come up with their thesis topic during their summer internship. So flexibility is, I think, the paramount thing when coming up with a thesis topic.
Fabulous. Erica, do you want to say a little bit about thesis colloquium? Because they're also asking about how that helps you develop your thesis.
So part of what we try to do is support students in how you undertake research in the field. And it's not just how you undertake research for a thesis. And I think this ties back to the question of how do we engage communities. We see the thesis as an opportunity for you to really test out that toolbox of preservation, whether that is going out and doing focus groups within communities, doing interviews with people in the profession, participating as an observer in community board meetings. All of these are ways to gather data in the preservation process, in addition to the archival work that we do, the monitoring, the testing that we do, whether it's in the lab or in the field. And so through thesis colloquium, the idea is that you're looking at all of those different methods, all of those different approaches, and figuring out which ones apply to the question you're interested in exploring as part of your thesis. And so it's really a marriage not only of the topic that you're interested in, but how you want to approach an exploration of that inquiry.
Another question.
Let's take a quick moment to
go teach my class, but if anybody wants to speak with me one-on-one, either on the phone, on a Zoom, by email, I'm really happy to do it. I've already spoken, I know, with a number of you, and I'm happy to speak with anybody later today or at any time. So it's been a pleasure virtually meeting everybody.
Okay, Andrew, have a good class. Thank you. Lila, you wanted to say something?
I was actually just gonna ask to take a moment to say goodbye to Andrew, but carry on.
Oh, okay. Some of the other questions are concerning the studios. A question, and I'll just read them off and we can answer them all together. Should the selection of advanced studios be aligned with a thesis topic? Is there any study abroad opportunity, or the projects mostly based in New York, in the New York area? How often are international opportunities available? How does Columbia's HP program, oh, we already answered that one, sorry, engage with the community. So these have to do with the studios. So the studios, they start in New York City. The Studio 1 is really about a building in New York City. Studio 2 enlarges that to a community in New York City. The social, typically an environment like a neighborhood. It can be New York City. It can be the surrounding areas of New York City. And then Studio 3 is an international or cross-cultural studio that is a travel studio in any case. So we leave New York City. So those are major opportunities for international work. There's also summer workshops that are paid for by the school, where you can travel on the school's dime, which is really great. Also, the international and cross-cultural studios in the fall are paid for by the school. There's also travel money, the Kinney travel money when you graduate. You can apply for a Kinney Travel Fellowship. There's also the largest cash prize for graduation in the school, which we're very proud of, which is the Onera Prize, is a prize that is $25,000 to take you an idea that you've developed in the program and make it reality. And a lot of those winners have traveled internationally. We have some that, for example, are doing work in Colombia right now, in Bogota, about modernism over there. Erica, you want to say a little bit more about these international studios?
Sure. So I teach one of them that focuses on planning, and essentially it's building on the skills that you've been learning in Studio 1 and Studio 2, and then challenging you to think about their application within that cross-cultural context, like Jorge said. In the studios that I teach, we do a tremendous amount of work before we hit the field on identifying stakeholders. We also partner with a local university so that when our Columbia students are in the field, they are paired with local students who can provide insight, and together they do work on the ground to collect additional data, to interview, to do surveys, whether those are physical surveys or surveys of communities. And so we believe that this really is almost a true test of the student, in that it's taking you to a place oftentimes where you have very little preconceived notions about the heritage that you're confronting. And it compels us as professionals, me as an old professional, you as burgeoning professionals, to really kind of confront our biases and think, okay, how do different publics really conceptualize and approach this question of heritage and approach this question of preservation, and how do we use this toolbox, which in many ways is sort of universal and sits across many different countries or cultures, but use it effectively to meet the goals of that community. And so we've worked in Ethiopia, we've just worked in Sierra Leone and Freetown, we've worked in Haiti twice, and also Montgomery, Alabama, and Yangon, Myanmar. So very, very different locales, but again, strong research at the beginning of the semester where you're diving in. We connect with stakeholders, we connect with the community when you're in the field. And the studios that I work on, each one has actually produced a published report at the end, so that you all have that kind of what I call plunk factor, that ability to bring something to interviews, to your next endeavor in life, to demonstrate the way in which your skills have been realized.
And that's a very important part, a differentiating factor of our program, which is that when you leave the program, you have a really substantial piece of research in your thesis and a substantial piece of evidence-based projects in those reports and in your studios. So that the studio curriculum is really important for your entering into the profession with, as Erica said, the plunk factor. Somebody asked about how do you get into these studios. Everybody is able to get into a studio. We match you to your interests, whether it is the policy and planning, whether it's architectural design and preservation, whether it's advanced preservation technology. We typically, people just kind of sort out naturally, but we ask what your interest is, and then we match you up to the studio. So that's pretty explanatory, but everybody really gets their first choice for the most part. And sometimes some people have like, well, I could do this and that. So then we match them around. But if you are doing a dual degree with planning, you have to take the joint preservation planning studio that Erica teaches. If you're doing a joint degree with architecture, you have to take the studio that I co-teach with Mark Rakatansky between architecture and preservation. So those are also ways in which we match people up. We are out of time, but just very quickly, there's 2 questions left. One has to do with the tech lab and whether it's says there's the technology lab integrated across the various courses and studio found in the curriculum, or just access through specific courses on the basis of work thesis of the students. All of the above. The Preservation Technology Lab is both a classroom where people come and study building technology, science, conservation, and also the digital and applied technologies that come from out of the field into preservation, like digital technologies. But it's also something that you can use for your thesis, and it feeds into studios, it feeds into classes, it really cuts across the whole curriculum. So I encourage you to look at the video online about that, and we can talk more about that individually if that's your interest, because it is also a research platform, the lab. Then the last question had to do with money, which is of course in everyone's mind, you know, money. And somebody was asking about how much the TA-ships pay. All that information is online. It's very transparent. We try to, if you need and want a TA-ship, typically we're able to accommodate those, and you have to be able to, one, take the class before you TA it, and two, have good grades. So if you don't have good grades, you don't get a TA-ship, but most of you are super smart and will get good grades, so we have no doubt about that. The information is online. We also have casual pay positions, so those are hourly positions. Those typically go to first years. If you have more questions about the hourly pay and TA-ships, and this is something really important to you, please contact me. We can talk about it. Those TA-ships pay $7,864 off of the tuition. And they also have a stipend on a semester basis that is $2,320. They are competitive, so you have to apply for them, and you know you have to. We have to go through all the applications to make that those determinations. But we are lucky to be able to support you in that way. So I think I'm very happy we got through all the questions. So that's amazing. I am so thrilled to be able to be in the same virtual room with all of you. I just can't wait to meet all of you. You're a terrific cohort. Part of the open house is for you to meet who you're going to be with. One of the advantages of this year, I have to say, is that oftentimes our international students, because it's so far, they can't make it to open house, but many of you are here today. So you really get a feel for our program and how the different backgrounds and different places that people come from. So again, congratulations to all of you on being admitted. I want all of you that are in the same region, the people from LA, the people from, you know, Shanghai, get together. You know, these are the people that you're going to be studying with. We're a super tight community. We love spending time with each other. We have dinners, we have potlucks. You know, it's very social. It's a really great 2 years. It's an investment in yourself. It's a fun time. We love to make it fun because we feel that like learning happens better when you're having a good time rather than when you're not having a good time. So we really make it a fun experience, and an experience that people that have gone through the program, you can talk to our alumni, they always remember the time they spent at Columbia as a really positive moment where they could think the big thoughts and explore the big ideas and discover their path in preservation. So we just can't wait to have you here. Erica.
Listen, if anyone has additional questions, you can reach out to me via email. We have some kind of virtual office hours this afternoon. So please just feel free to reach out.
Great. All right, well, thank you all. This is really great. Thank you, Lila, for organizing. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the open house. Watch those videos online and write us an email. Please be in close contact. We want to hear about you. We want to hear about when you're coming to New York, when you're going to land here. We're here for you, okay? So goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much.